When you hear the sound of acorns falling on the ground, it's a clear sign that the fall is here and the seasons are changing. Not only it's associated with the fall, but it's also a symbol of fertility and growth, as that little unassuming seed holds a potential for a new oak tree. Hi everyone, it's Hani here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Let's make some acorn cookies. For this project, I am using my classic sugar cookie recipe and also royal icing. Both of these recipes are listed on my blog, and also I have them in a video format here on my YouTube channel. I'm gonna start by decorating this large acorn shape with ivory colored royal icing, about 15-second consistency here. If you don't have ivory, you can also use light brown with touch of yellow. Use a scribe tool and smooth the icing across. We're going to let this crust for about 20 minutes. And then we're going to use, can you guess what color? We're going to be using green. I'm going to use 2 shades of green. On this side, we're going to use this lovely leaf green mixed with a little bit of yellow. And then you can use a little bit of ivory to mute it down to make it more kind of earthy and warm looking. And this is also about 15-second consistency. Now take that lighter shade green and ice the remaining section. I'm not really waiting for the adjacent section to crust. I'm piping the icing right after I did that small section on the side. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you several acorn designs, so you can choose which one you like. And actually, I'd like you to tell me which one is your favorite. You can do that in a comment section. While this section is wet, we can also do wet on wet highlight with white royal icing. This icing should be about the same consistency as the base layer, so it sinks in. If you wait too long, if your base layer is already crusted, the highlight is going to be slightly elevated. It will sit on top of that base layer. Now we can do the stem with brown icing, about 20-second consistency. Use the scribe tool and smooth the icing, and then we can let this dry. We're going to do some brush embroidery. I've got here small square paintbrush, a little bowl with water, and also paper towel. And my icing is thicker consistency. I would say like piping consistency will work for this, or if you'd like, you can make it slightly thicker. I'm using dotted method. So you want to pipe large dots, and then you can brush part of the dot towards you and then continue. If you see that the bristles on your paintbrush have some icing on them, which will kind of interfere with how you can work. Sometimes it gets in the way if there is a lot of icing on the brush. You can dip it in water and then wipe it clean into a paper towel. I recommend that the paintbrush you're using, the bristles are lightly damp. You shouldn't have a lot of water, or it shouldn't be oversaturated with water, just very lightly damp. And this simple brush embroidery, it's very forgiving, and it just adds a really nice texture. If you don't have a small square paintbrush, you can also use a small liner brush that will work as well. Again, you may have a slightly different shape of a cutter. Now I'm using, this is a bronze, or I think brown luster dust. mixed with a little bit of Everclear. I'm just going to paint the stem. You need to wait for the icing to dry, so the brown icing is fully dry as I'm painting it. And this is the first design, and let's do the second design. This is the, I think, more traditional shape for the acorn. It's more available, this shape, this cutter. And so we're gonna start with the top section. I'm using brown here. If you don't have brown food coloring, you can also use red and green. And if you mix those two, it will give you brown. You can play with different hues by adding more red or more green. Depends on the color you're trying to achieve. And now we're adding light brown on the side here, similar like our previous design. Remember, we used the 2 shades of green there. And now I'm coming in with lighter brown. When piping around the border of the adjacent section, I'm squeezing the piping bag more, so more icing is coming out. I want to avoid having any gaps between the two sections, so I don't have to use my scribe tool there. Sometimes if you are too rough with your scribe tool, you kind of move the icing from one section to another, and that's not ideal. Now we can do the highlight, use the scribe to move the white icing. Now I'm just gonna let it crust for about 20-30 minutes, and then we can add the stem. So this is an all brown design here. We're gonna beautify it with some gold splatter. So I've got my paintbrush loaded with gold luster dust, or you can use brown or bronze, whatever you have. And I put my cookie onto a coffee filter, and I'm just running the scribe across the bristles, and it's just makes for a wonderful kind of random splatter on the icing. Now I'm going to finish the very top with a nice lattice. This is going to create nice texture. My icing is thicker here, and you can see it's also darker brown. And I've got my piping bag fitted with a piping tip. You can use a small round piping tip like number 1, or PME 1.5 is very nice. And for this step, use icing that is thicker, like piping consistency or soft piping consistency, so it holds its shape and it's not spreading too much. You can find a detailed guide about royal icing consistency here on my YouTube channel. I'm gonna link it up in the description box, or you can also find more of a picture-friendly tutorial on my blog, hanielas.com. Now let's paint the stem. Again, reminder, stem needs to be dry before you can paint it with gold luster dust. And this concludes the second design. Let's do the third design. So third design, we're gonna start by icing the bottom first. I'm using light brown here, 15-second consistency. I'm going to let that dry and then use my fan brush. I'm dipping the ends of the fan brush in gold. This is old gold luster dust, and we're just going to run it across. This is such a fun technique. I hope you'll try it. And now we can do the top. I'm using 15-second consistency icing here, dark brown. And now I'm adding some gold luster dust onto the wet icing, and I'm just gonna swirl it with my scribe tool. This is a really fun technique also to give the icing more glamorous look. It's really fun to do. And now I'm going to use that thicker consistency icing I used on the lattes in the previous design. I'm just going to go back and forth to make the stem to create nice texture. And here we have another acorn. This is a small cutter that I found. It's so dainty, really cute cutter. And we're going to ice the bottom with dark brown, chocolate brown, about 15 seconds. And now come in with lighter brown, again about 15 seconds. And we can do variety of dots on the side. I love polka dots so much. And now we can do the top. And remember, all of these designs are applicable on different sizes. Like just because I'm doing this design on a small acorn shape doesn't mean that you can do it on a larger shape, whatever you have. So just keep that in mind. And now, if you'd like, you can paint the top cap with gold luster dust. When painting with gold luster dust, it's ideal when the base color it's darker. For the gold, it can be ivory or light brown. It just helps with the coverage, and it will provide better coverage. It's easier to paint and achieve the results that are much nicer, as opposed to if you were to use white icing underneath. And now the stem, again, you can do it with thicker icing. It adds a nice texture. Now let's do a green one. Here we're also going to do some wet on wet, but slightly different. We're not gonna do polka dots. I'm gonna pipe lines with lighter green icing. And then with the scribe tool, you can help blend these lines into the base layer, like so. I'm not going to wait for the icing to crust, so you can come in with whatever color you want to do the top section, the cap with, but I'm using ivory icing. Again, about 15-second consistency. You can do brown. Really, sky is the limit. You can use so many different colors. And now again, once everything is dry, you can paint with gold luster dust. Or you could do a splatter on these. Remember the splatter we did in the previous design? And now back and forth, creating zigzag on the stem. And there, that's how you make a variety of different acorn cookies. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you are new to my YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you get notified about my new uploads. Also, all the details can be found in the description box under the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.